What's up, y'all? This is Jonny Schultz from Fish the Moment. Today I'm here at the bass tank getting some new graphs put into my 18-foot Triton. They've already got to work, so excuse any noise in the background. And the goal today is to install a variety of fish finders at different price points from different brands. So we can compare a $500 fish finder all the way up to a $3,000 fish finder. But before we worry about what graphs we're putting in, we've got to make sure they're installed properly, because if they're not installed properly, it doesn't matter if you have the best imaging on the water, it's going to look terrible if it's not wired properly. Let's get after it. In terms of installation, the bass tank have a challenge on their hands today. I brought several Lowrance units from different price points, as well as some new humminbird units to add to my existing units on the boat. I also have a Lowrance active target and the new humminbird Mega Live imaging, all to throw on this 18-foot Triton. I'm not actually going to run every single one of these fish finders at the same time. I'm actually going to make it so that they can be interchanged so that I can compare different units on different days. One thing we're definitely going to have to do is set up a unique or dedicated battery source or power source for all these units with a lithium battery. I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but as you can see, with all these different units, we need to have an expert team installing them properly with all the transducers, the cables, everything like that. But I know the bass tank is up to the task, so let's see how it's done. Now earlier I mentioned that installation can be more important than the actual fish finder you put on the boat. Let me give you a short example. I was on the lake a couple of years ago doing an on-the-water fishing lesson, helping a guy get his fish finder tuned in. And he was actually using a humminbird helix unit that I'm really familiar with. We got in the boat and I started setting up his unit, and I realized I couldn't quite get the image to look the way I wanted it to. After about an hour of messing with the graph, I determined that the graph wasn't installed properly. I then had him go home, unfortunately, go back to the shop, and what we found out is that they were using the wrong gauge wire to connect his fish finder to his battery source. There are a lot of other issues like the transducer placement and the power source that actually powers these graphs that can affect the image. And if your graph isn't installed properly, it doesn't matter if your settings are right or if you have the best fish finder on the market, you're not going to be able to get a good image. Actually, a properly installed $500 fish finder is going to give you 10 times better image than a $3,000 unit installed improperly. So if you want to get the most out of your investment, especially if you're spending $1,000 in your fish finder, make sure they get installed properly the first time so you don't waste a bunch of time graphing on the water. So we finished the install, and man, there was a lot of graphs to install. We got 2 here as well as 3 on the boat. We're going to be switching them in and out to make sure all of the wiring is done properly. I'm sure it is. And we also want to check the new forward-facing sonar we put on the boat. Let's get out in the lake and see how it works. Well, we got off the lake here and everything is installed perfect. One great thing about the bass tank is that they put in dedicated power sources from my battery to each individual graph. That way I get the clearest image possible. All we have to do now is update the software on a couple of these units. That's one thing a lot of guys overlook when they get new fish finders in the boat. You always want to make sure you update that software. You can always get the software from the manufacturer's website, whether it's Humminbird, Lowrance, or Garmin, download on an SD card, and put it straight in the fish finder. If you miss that step, you're not going to be getting the most out of your fish finder. But because we got the install done, we got the software updates good, I'll be great to go on the water and put some fish in the boat.